Welcome to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to help you create lifelong learners and embrace a holistic approach to education at home. I'll be sharing practical strategies, inspiration, and resources to support your family. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, a business owner, or balancing work and homeschool, you're in the right place to connect with a community that values education just as much as you do. Join us each week as we ditch the stress, embrace the joy of learning, and set your family up for a lifetime of success. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, your home education expert. This week, I have a very special guest with me, Rache Dayoub. She is the founder of Whispering Force, and I am just so excited to have her on the show. I have seen her start Whispering Force and just really make a huge impact in the Pittsburgh area as well as beyond, because here I am in Georgia and still just in awe of everything that she has created. And I talk about Whispering Force all the time. I talk about your story, the importance of self-defense for women and children. And I just am excited to introduce to you Rache Dayoub. Thank you, Rachel, for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And you actually were there in the very beginning of all of this, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah, you were. You were a big supporter, and I appreciate you so much.
Oh, thanks, honey.
Yeah.
And we met way before that, even before you started. We met with the Inspiring Lives magazine, and that's how I met you. And I just knew right away that we had this energy between us, and you're such a dear friend to me, and I just love watching you make this impact. So tell everyone a little bit about yourself, and then how did you start Whispering Force?
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I am a single mom of two teenagers now. I wasn't when this all began, but now they're 14 and 16. I have a 16-year-old amazing daughter and a 14-year-old incredible son. And they have been with me through this whole journey. It's amazing how much they understand first of all, what a single mother can accomplish, because I chose at first to put a lot of my success and what I thought life was supposed to be, right? You know how we make our own plan.
Yeah.
What I thought life was supposed to be just did not turn out the way I thought. But they have watched a single mother, run two businesses, including trying to protect women and children all over our city, if not further, like you said, Georgia, and anyone who's ever listening. This is very important to me that they're a part of that. So I was a teacher. That was my trade, just as you. And when I decided to, be at home with Hannah, I did the entrepreneurial thing, and I airbrush spray tan from the house for 16 years now. And then 5 years ago, something else happened, and I was walking in Target. It was February 26th, 5 years ago, right before we went into quarantine. And just like any other woman, like you're just trying to get things done, especially as a single mom. They were at youth group, and I basically had to get things done. So it was snowing, and it was cold, and it was dark at 6 o'clock. And I was followed in 3 different places in that store. The whole story is, all over my website and things like that. But for sake of time, basically, it started off with one gentleman. Actually, I nicknamed the first guy the mechanic because he just kind of looked like he had denim on and he looked greasy, and it was really strange how he was watching me. But when I went to the second spot of the store, then there was 2 of them, and I nicknamed the second one the gentleman because he had, salt and pepper hair, and he was like in his 60s and black leather jacket, like something out of The Sopranos or Casino or something. And they just did not look like they should be friends. The third spot I went into, they really caged me in an aisle that made me question everything. And I tell everyone at my Whispering Force classes, like, you have to follow your instincts, because I knew my instincts were telling me that I was in a dangerous situation. I knew they were telling me that these men were creepy and up to no good. But as I sat there and they disappeared from both ends of the aisle, and I'm in the middle, I looked both ends and they finally disappeared, and I took a breath. And right when I said I'm going to go talk to a manager, make sure someone walks into my car or something, I turned it off. I was like, oh, don't be a drama queen, Rachel. Like, you're a single mom. Like, what are you doing? You think someone's going to attack you, and this. And I honestly made myself feel stupid by myself.
Wow.
And I turned it all off, and I said, there's a lot of things on the news lately. You're probably hypersensitive. There was a lot of the human trafficking starting to show up more on the news than we ever saw before. And I truly knew someone that had a recording of a baby left on her porch a week before this. And she was on the news saying, if I wouldn't have called my dad first, who told me to call the cops, I would have went on my porch to check on the crying baby. And here, human traffickers were luring women out of their houses after realizing that they were single.
Oh my. So it wasn't even a real crying baby. It was a recording.
Yeah. And it was still out there. I mean, it was out there until, she called the cops, and I'm assuming when they heard, they saw the lights and stuff, they disappeared. But of course the recording was still there, and they showed it to her, and she was a disaster, thinking of what could have happened to her a couple seconds later.
Right.
So I put her story into mine and was like, that wasn't you. You have to stop acting and dramatizing what's going on here. This is nothing. Just go home. You have things to do. So I talked myself out of the safety part of the whole story. And I went to self-checkout, and I checked out all 3 of my items, and I looked around the store a little bit, and they weren't there. And I always ask my class, I'm like, they weren't there. Where were they? And every little girl or every mom's like, they were outside. I'm like, exactly. Yeah. So I went outside, and it was slushy from the snow. So I was walking to my car, and then I heard the extra footsteps, and I started to turn around, and as I'm turning around, I had my key in my hand because I'm always cold, so I wanted to get in my car. So my key was ready to go. I wasn't under a parked light. I was kind of wherever the snowbanks weren't, because they were all shoveled up in those big snow piles. So I just parked wherever I could. And the mechanic was like, Miss, don't get in your car. There's something on your tire. And I turned, and I see him, and I see the gentleman about 15 feet behind him, hands in his pockets, almost looking like a crime drama that's like, if you can't take care of her, I will, but watching to see if this guy could do it. I see the white towel in his hands. I know exactly what's on that white towel. And I'm like, oh my God, in that split second, everything felt like it was minutes long, but they were only seconds. I said to myself, you're going to be taken from Hannah and Tyler right now. Like, I was telling myself that was it for me. Wow. And I got stunned, and I'm very open with my heart on my sleeve, as you know, because that's how things get done, right? We can't be quiet about our stories. Absolutely. So, I have been, domestically abused as a child. Like, there was that. I never thought in a million years I would be the person that could get stunned and completely freeze in a panic after everything I've been through, right? I chose to rise on top of my bad situations. And there I was, completely stunned. And I tell people that you're a teacher, so you probably know this story, but there's a story in early childhood, and it's really just a red balloon that follows the pages through black and white pages, and you kind of follow the red balloon through the pages. It's the only color you see, okay? That's what I saw when I looked down at my key. So I'm completely in shock, but my key is jingling. When I looked down at that key, the only thing I saw out of all my black and white view in front of me was red. And it reminded me of that story when I thought about it, weeks later. And I pressed the red button, not thinking, in a way of this is my panic button. It's going to save my life. I just knew it looked different than the rest of my world at that moment. And I needed to get out of that world, right? That world was black and white and scary and gray, and I didn't know what to do there. That red button to me was the only way out. It was like a huge door. And so I pressed it. And my alarm went off. Now, two things could have happened. And I tell people this because I'm like, not everything ends in a good story, in a happy ending. Basically, two things could have happened. I could have pressed that key and they could have been like, wow, not only did we just get her in 3 seconds with the towel over my mouth, we also got a car. Awesome. Let's go. They could have just taken me in my own car and got out of the whole situation.
Right.
But thank God that did not happen. I didn't even look back. I literally just ran to my car. He was at this point probably 10 feet behind me. Yeah. And I guess it scared them enough where he must have turned and ran towards his so-called boss. And the other guy was probably like, well, it's too late now. You just ran towards me. So they left the scene. And I went like 90 miles per hour in the middle of ice and snow. And thank God there was God watching over me there too, because I wasn't thinking straight driving.
Absolutely not.
No, and I got out of the situation, but I drove. Once my brain came to that they weren't behind me, I still decided to drive around my neighborhood to make sure that I wasn't pulling into my driveway, with someone watching my car. To make a long story short, after that, it took me 3 days to even leave the house. I would put Ginger, who's like right beside me, I would put Ginger outside, and when the wind hit me, it literally felt like a cloud of evil. Like it was, nothing felt safe in my world. And I'm a single mom of like 8 and 10, 7 and 9, whatever. Right. Like 9 and 11 actually. And it was just terrifying. I'm lying to the kids saying that I had, migraines and stomach pains and I couldn't take them out at night. I was working for the magazine. So I basically wasn't going to meetings and I was like stomach flu and everything else. Then I had a really big meeting with Bella Sarah, actually, for one of our sponsorship things that we would do with them. And I said, I can't miss this meeting. And I forced myself to go 3 days later. I found inner strength once that meeting was over because I found myself again. I was like, okay, you're either going to let this define the rest of your life or it's going to change who you are in a stronger way. Yeah. And I chose stronger. I always choose stronger. I don't feel like I have a choice because these children don't have anyone but me, as a constant, as an everyday. So I came home and I was like, okay, we're good. How are we going to do this now? What's our next step? And I went on to Facebook to a mom's page and I said, who wants to take a self-defense class with me? And that's all I put. And I left it and I took I think it was basketball at the time, and whatever, dance, whatever. And I did all that. And I checked it 3 hours later and there was 622 comments.
Oh my goodness.
Now we know that does not just happen.
Right.
Now the one thing was I do airbrush spray tan, that. So I thought maybe these people, because they know me, you're right. Like I've sprayed them or their daughters or whatever. But no, I start looking at the comments and it's like, Rachel, are you spearheading this? Rachel, my daughter's cheerleading team. Rachel, me and my friends and our daughters. I'm like, are these people losing their minds? So wow. I go back up and it says, who wants to take a self-defense class with me that I am starting? Now, I'm a proud Christian, but I'm telling you what, I didn't write that. So I knew that came from somewhere higher. I knew that was a calling I was supposed to listen to. And boy, is it hard to listen to all his callings, right?
Oh,
sometimes we're like, you're insane.
Right.
But I did. The next morning I got up and I read every comment and I called a couple different instructors that might have been interested. Crown Plaza was my first home. So I met with them to make sure that we could start having our things there. And then a couple of days later, Kim Gable's like, so we're going to do, what was it called? Positive Outlook or something. She's like, you remember, the positive things she did on the news. Okay. So she said, we're going to do a news story on the professional single mom starting a self-defense class. And I'm like, You guys are all insane. And then all these people are like, you got to come up with a logo, like right now. And so, well, it's on my shirt. So wait, can you see?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whispering force. So whispering is done in like a cursive manner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because women, we all have a story, but we're very quiet to tell that story. We usually do not wear our heart on our sleeves because we don't trust everybody.
Right.
So we whisper our stories. But a force, which is a lot stronger font, we are a force to be reckoned with the right education and techniques. And then when you add the butterfly, it's not a monarch butterfly, it's a butterfly effect. And that basically means small changes equals greater outcome. And so every single podcast, class, magazine, article, conversation that I have with someone about this, they probably go and tell someone else. And then you've got the butterfly effect going.
Yes.
And that's how we have reached thousands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 5 years later, and the goals I have every year for Whispering Force, they keep being met. And that's because
I love that. That is God's hand in it all.
That's right.
I love that so much.
You've heard that story so many times.
I've heard that story so many times, but also there are things in there that I did not hear multiple times. So I actually have been learning right along with you, listeners, because there were parts of that story that, yes, I knew the gist of it, but actual details of what you saw and how close they were and how we, get to this point of like, we're fine. Stop being so, dramatic about this. It's fine. They're not really following you. Why would they follow you? Right. But then the fact of like, they were, and you should have talked to a manager. You should have been escorted out. We should have called the police, but we think like, no, I think within the past 5 years since this has happened to you, I think people are waking up a lot more, right? Where we do say, you know what, this is off a little bit and we need to contact someone, but I see it all the time of I was followed around Target. I was followed around this store. I remember I have 2 instances that I can recall. One, I remember going to Ross Dress for Less here in Georgia, and I would go to one in Pittsburgh all the time, not thinking anything of it. I felt safe in that area, and which doesn't matter, right? Because you probably have gone to that.
Safe.
Yeah, you've gone to that Target multiple times, right?
Right.
So it doesn't even matter if it's a familiar place for us. And most of the time, that's when we let our guards down, right?
Right.
But I remember going to the Ross Dress for Less store, and there was a guy shopping in the women's section and was very close to some of the women. And I did share this story with Teresa, which was the episode before you. And, I said at that point, I didn't really I don't know. I didn't feel strong enough to speak out at that point, right? To even say to her, you know what, this doesn't seem right. For me personally, I left because I was like, you know what, this doesn't feel right. I need to get out of here. And I did. But we also need to be watching out for the other moms, for the other women, for the children.
Absolutely.
And if we don't feel like it's right, because we also know, like that situation with your friend, that there was a baby sound, right, on her doorstep, because they're using women and children now to lure women and children, right? So that's a dangerous thing as well. You don't really know who to trust. But if it doesn't feel right, you need to go to someone. You need to call 911 right then and there and say, you know what, this doesn't seem right, and we need to get this reported. So then that way people are aware. Post those stories on social media. Let people know that this stuff is happening and how can we help. So I'm going to tell you one other story, and then Rachel, I want you to share, how are you then helping women and children that are in this situation? So similar to your story, I was in South Carolina, and actually Dan was right there. He was with me. We were in 2 separate cars. We were on our way back home from Pittsburgh. And he had pulled out, and I have the kids and the dog in my car. And I was already in my car. We were both in our car. He had just pulled out and went around the building, and some gentleman pulled up beside my car or was on a bike or something and was like, "Hey, ma'am, there's something wrong with your tire." Same thing that happened with you, Rachel. And I was like, no, there's not, because I was aware at this point, right? I had already had more self-awareness, situational awareness, and I just beelined it out of there, And then I called Dan. I was like, "You left me there, and you weren't even there." And I tell him the situation, and a lot of times for them, they don't understand the severity of it. They don't understand what it's like for a woman to go to a store and not feel secure.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that we have 10 bags in our hands trying to grab our purse and our keys, and anybody at that moment could attack us, take our car. Not once in being a single mom all these years did I feel like I couldn't get those things done on top of having a toddler and a baby. It just was what you had to do, right?
Exactly.
It's survival mode. This is my everyday life. Now you need to watch everything. And they say even the things we used to be able to do, okay, or even the things you thought were no big deal. Example, just learned this from a cop the other day. You're not supposed to take business cards off strangers anymore unless you're actually at a marketing event. Wow. They're putting a chemical on business cards, then watching you drive away and following you till you get dizzy and pull over.
Oh my goodness.
Not in a million years did I not take business cards in what we did. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like everything that you thought was innocent in this world, unfortunately, you need to take off your glasses.
Yes.
It's a different world. And I tell my kids, it's about being aware and not scared. I don't want you to not live your life. That's not what I'm saying. However, if you're not aware of your surroundings, if you're on your phone when you're walking down the street, if you don't have that posture that makes it look like I'll fight you right back.
Yep, exactly.
Anything can happen these days. There's a price tag on all of us. I found out that Hannah, as a brown-haired, half Middle Eastern, red hair, brown eyes, half Middle Eastern look, very unique looking, right? Guess how much money she is in Russia? Just guess. And this is unbelievable to hear this of your own child.
God, I don't want to hear. Just tell me, because I don't even want to guess.
$487,000 on the black market. Imagine how much money, and I was told that by an FBI person that works with all this. Imagine how much money is trickling down to get that girl over to that person. Right. All those people. Money is evil. Money is, So these are the things that we have to think differently. We are not raised how we used to be raised. These kids are not able to walk down the street and go to the park by themselves. It's sad, but it's true.
It's so true. And there's so many times when it's like, yes, Ella, I believe that you are capable. I don't trust the world. It's not about the fact that I don't trust you. It's about the fact that I don't trust other people, delivery drivers. You never know who's driving through neighborhoods or anywhere. So
there's been children picked up in their front yards.
Yes.
I mean, it's a sick world we live in now. I do, and I know your family's proud Christians, and we are God-fearing people, and we know there's a revival. We know that's all coming, right? Thank God that there are certain things that are being lifted in these young generations. I see it in my children. I know I see it in yours. And thank God, because if people don't start getting their kids right with the Lord and understanding that, that's what you need to be scared of, because we are getting some really evil, sick mental cases out there, including money, including power, in
everything.
Then you just got the addicts. I mean, you literally have everything under the sun.
Yes. And that's so true. So the theme from the past 3 episodes, so I did an episode about safety and family, safety, and I interviewed Teresa, and now I'm interviewing you. And the theme, but through all of those episodes are, not living in fear, but being aware, because it's so true. You need that situational awareness. So Rachel, what are some ways that you are helping women and children be aware and prepared in this world that is full of just, danger and evilness, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, that's just what the classes are. And that is what the butterfly effect is. When only 15 people take the class, I expect them each to talk and show some techniques and talk about a few awareness tips to at least 3 people each, so that our class became more of like 100 than it was. You know what I mean? So like tomorrow, at the Mount Lebanon Rec Center, I have 18, I have some moms and some daughters. And then we are I bring Bob with me. Bob's like, the boxing dummy. We go over like 3 techniques, and we go over, then we hit Bob with those techniques. Because one of the things is, a lot of self-defense classes, like, they don't actually hit something. They do a lot of things in the air, right? And that's totally fine. That's how you should learn. But I want these 8-year-old girls, like, when they come up and they're like, and I'm like, show me what you got. This thing I'm holding, this is the same weight as a man that would try to take you. Yeah. Show me what you would do to a stranger. And then they're like, bam. And I'm like, that's what I want to see. And hitting something that has that weight to it, they leave there empowered. There's something about the classes, because we keep them simple. Because my whole thing is, an 8-hour class of self-defense, you're not going to remember more than no. That's it.
Right.
So I'm like, true. Yeah. So I'm like, when we come in here, I'm going to tell you my story, just as all of you know now. And then we are going to learn 3 techniques. We're going to teach them to Bob. We're going to do them on Bob, so you can actually feel like your power that you have. Doesn't matter how small you are. You have strategies you can use. That doesn't matter if you're 6 or if you're 96 or if you're 30 years old, right? It's going to work. And then I teach how to get out of 2 hold grabs. Because one of the things is, it's as simple as like, I'm walking. And we do this at the end of the class, where after I showed them the technique, I have them walk and then surprise each other by grabbing each other. All that person behind you has to do is dumbbells all the way up to the ears like that, and the person cannot keep the grip on you.
Oh,
and that's
so
when you
good.
and that's when you do another strategy to beat them, so they finally let go. You kick from behind, or you elbow this way, and you run. You never stay and fight. You're only staying to get away, you know? So it's amazing, because after the class is over, they're just so empowered, and their faces are different, and they're not as timid looking as they were when they came in. And some moms are like, stop laughing. This is serious. And I'm like, let them laugh. They need to see this as they would be laughing if they're walking down the street talking to their friend. Let them be them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And, then next Tuesday, I'm going to Allegheny Health Network and just speaking, more the story, more some tips, more some statistics, and just keep this moving. That's all I'm trying to do, is keep it moving. My goal for 2026 is to get enough sponsorships to be able to give free classes to domestic shelters of women and children all over Pittsburgh. I can't do that by myself.
Right.
Like, I need sponsors. I need someone that says, I saw her podcast, and this is exactly what I want to do with my money. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because they can't afford anything, but we just want to come in there and do what we do. Give us an hour, once a week, because they change over every 3 weeks. So we might be able to give them 3 sessions. Those women and children are out, and the next group comes in.
Wow.
And it makes me want to cry. But you want to give them something to feel more powerful. Because my mom and I lived in shelters, and we learned nothing but how to protect ourselves from being hurt by the other women and children. And these women, like, it's different now, but how a program like Whispering Force is not offered it floors me. Because here I am.
So much.
But you got to have the right people backing you,
That's right. Absolutely. Well, I definitely have some ideas. I'd love to chat with you a little bit more off air, for sure. Because what I'm thinking is we should definitely do a virtual sessions. We should do some virtual sessions where we can, be marketing to so many people and having live virtual
getting it
sessions.
out there.
Absolutely. So let's definitely talk a little more about that. But all my listeners, if that is something that you are like, yes, obviously, a lot of you are not in the Pittsburgh area, but if you are in the Pittsburgh area, I highly recommend you reaching out to Rachel. All of the links will be in the show notes below. And Rachel, you're going to share that here in a second. But
Sure.
Whispering Force, you guys can look that up and you can attend the sessions. Guys, I highly recommend it. I have been to so many of them, as many as I can, because
you really have every time you're in.
Every time I'm in, and I can join a session because you started this whenever I moved here. Mm-hmm. And so whenever a session would be close to my travel date, I would always move my travel date so I could come up and be at a session because it's so important.
I appreciate you so much.
Of course. And even Ella, I've had her come to as many as we can because it's so important to be having our children be prepared and aware of the situation. So yes, definitely, keep that in mind. And listeners, if you are interested in something like this, definitely reach out to me or to Rachel. And you can always reach me at the Home Education with Ease Facebook group and just let me know what are some of the things that you're looking for to help prepare your families. So Rachel, can you tell everyone how they can find you?
Yeah, definitely. Whisperingforce.com is the website, so you can get in contact with me anywhere on there. If you're on Facebook or Instagram, it's at Whispering Force or at Whispering Force Self-Defense. And then whisperingforce@gmail.com if you want to email me. Can I leave one tip before we go?
Please do. Yes.
Okay, this is just a free tip for everyone. If you don't do this already, make sure that you have a safe word in your family. Of course, I won't tell you what ours is, but it's something that is near and dear to just me, Hannah, and Tyler as they were growing up. So if Tyler calls, I'm going to change it to, let's say Bain Park, right? Because that was a park they loved back in the day. That's not ours, but we'll just change it. Say, Hannah calls me and she's walking home from a friend's house and, just not feeling safe or something's going on. Say she even is at a friend's house and being a teenager, not feeling good about it. All she has to do is call me because teenagers are embarrassed, right, to ask for help, especially with people listening, and say, hey, mommy, how are you? Oh, my gosh, when are we going to go to Bain Park again? I would love to go to Bain Park. And right away, that would be our safe word. Then that's when I'm like, okay, I'm coming to get you right now. Ping me, and I would go get her. Exactly. So make sure your family has a safe word that your kid will never forget and they can use in all situations. So say they're 7 years old and he's like, here's your, someone says, get on the phone with your mom and say you're fine. And they can say, I had so much fun at Bain Park last week, mama. And then they'll know danger. I have to call the cops and something's wrong.
Right.
So a safe word is huge for the family.
Absolutely. And we talked about that. Another theme that has been through all 3 episodes. I talked about that in my episode. Teresa talked about that. And then we're talking about that here as well. So these are the things that keep in mind. And if you guys have not been able to check out the previous episodes, definitely check those ones out. We did a whole series on safety because it is literally that important. We need to be aware. We need to be prepared for all situations, and we need to be talking to our kids. They need to know and understand the dangers that are out there and be prepared for them.
That's right.
So anything else, any final things you want to share?
No, just that everyone's safe over the holidays and, watch out for those cell phones. Make sure you have parent apps so that these strangers and these predators aren't getting hold of your kids, through gaming and all that kind of stuff. And maybe just make little tips in your head of like, oh, before I could do a self-defense class, what could I do at home right now that could make life a little bit safer for my kid? Maybe just think of 1 or 2 things tonight and get that done.
Oh, I love that so much. And you're absolutely right with the holidays and everyone's out shopping and our hands are full and all of those things. So yes, keeping those things in mind is huge. So don't forget, reach out to Rachel, follow her, Whispering Force. All of these links will be in the show notes below. And I would love for you to check out and join the Home Education with Ease Facebook group as well. Let us know what are some of the situations that you and your family have been. Are you interested in some self-defense? And if you're in Pittsburgh, we have live classes with Rachel. And if you're not, are you interested in doing a virtual class where her and I collaborate and we're able to to do something. We don't know what that looks like yet. I just kind of sprung this on her right here. I know we've talked about
That
this
could
before.
look like you at a location with all your moms and me on some kind of screen teaching you.
Yes.
Ooh,
it
that'd
really
be
could.
fun.
I love it.
I love it.
So we've got lots of ideas. Let us know. Stay connected, and everyone stay safe, be aware, but not afraid.
Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel, so
Thanks,
much.
everybody. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're the best.
God bless everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to the Home Education with Ease podcast. I hope today's episode left you feeling empowered and ready to take the next steps on your home education journey. Your support means the world to me. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. For even more resources, be sure to join the free Facebook group, Home Education with Ease, and visit eduplaylearning.com to explore our programs and subscription kits. You can find the links and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. Remember, you're not alone. This community is here to support you every step of the way.